Victoria Sinclair's Bentley screeched to a halt outside Mount Sinai Hospital, tires leaving dark marks on pristine pavement. She threw open the door before the engine stopped, and Daniel Reed was already running, his face drained of all color. The call had come 15 minutes ago. Emma had collapsed at school. His 6-year-old daughter, the only thing keeping him alive since Sarah died, was fighting for her life again. But we need to go back. Back to where this all started, just 3 hours earlier, in the glass tower that housed Sterling Dynamics, Victoria's $5 billion empire built on fear. The morning briefing room sat on the 42nd floor, walls made entirely of glass overlooking Manhattan. 20 executives perched on leather chairs, backs rigid, eyes fixed on the mahogany table. No one dared look up, not when Victoria Sinclair was speaking. She stood at the head of the table in a charcoal Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her dark hair pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch her face into permanent severity. Her manicured finger traced the quarterly report projected on the screen behind her. "Revenue is up 18%, she said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Yet somehow, 3 departments missed their efficiency targets. Would anyone care to explain why I'm paying salaries to people who can't meet basic expectations?" Silence. Someone coughed nervously. Victoria's ice-blue eyes swept the room like a searchlight hunting for prey. Then she saw him. Daniel Reed, senior financial analyst, row 3, seat 4. He wasn't looking down. He was looking directly at her. Their eyes locked. 1 second. 2. 3. Victoria felt something crack in her chest. Not warmth, but irritation. Defiance. How dare he? "Mr. Reed." Her voice could have frozen boiling water. "My office." Immediately after this meeting. Daniel didn't flinch. He simply nodded once and looked back at his notes. Around him, colleagues shifted away as if his rebellion might be contagious. 30 minutes later, Daniel stood in Victoria's corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like she owned it. Maybe she did. Her desk was black glass and chrome, positioned so visitors had to face both her and the blinding sunlight behind her. A power play. Everything about Victoria Sinclair was a power play. She circled him slowly, heels clicking on marble floors. "Do you have a problem with authority, Mr. Reed?" "No, Miss Sinclair." "Then why were you staring at me during the briefing? Why didn't you show proper respect by averting your gaze like everyone else?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He'd been with Sterling Dynamics for 3 years. 3 years of watching people cower. 3 years of this toxic culture where grown adults were treated like children. "Because I'm not everyone else." Victoria stopped mid-stride. "Excuse me." "You heard me." Daniel turned to face her fully. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usually pressed shirt slightly wrinkled. "I don't have a problem with authority. I have a problem with being treated like I'm invisible, like I'm less than human." Victoria's expression hardened. "Your performance has been slipping. You've been late 17 times in the past 6 months. Your reports lack the precision they once had. Perhaps Sterling Dynamics isn't the right environment for someone of your declining capabilities." "Declining capabilities?" Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to know why I've been late? You want to know why my reports aren't perfect anymore? I don't particularly care. My wife died 18 months ago." The words came out sharp, angry. "Sarah, breast cancer, stage 4. She fought for 2 years while I worked 80-hour weeks, trying to keep our insurance active. In 3 months after I buried her, my daughter Emma was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia." Victoria's hand froze on her desk. "Emma is 6 years old," Daniel continued, his voice cracking. "She's had 4 rounds of chemotherapy. She's lost her hair. She throws up every morning. Her treatment costs $15,000 a month, even with insurance. So yes, sometimes I'm late because I'm at the hospital. Sometimes my reports aren't perfect because I haven't slept in 3 days. Sometimes I'm distracted because I'm terrified that the only person I have left in this world is going to die." He stepped closer to her desk, and Victoria instinctively took a step back. "I don't need your sympathy, Miss Sinclair. I'm not asking for special treatment. But I deserve basic human respect. I deserve to be treated like a person, not a disposable asset. So fire me if you want. but I'm done being afraid of you." He turned and walked out, leaving the door open behind him. Victoria stood motionless, staring at the empty doorway. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her desk to steady herself. That night, alone in her penthouse 43 floors above the city, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Daniel Reed's words. She poured herself a glass of wine she didn't drink and stood at the window watching the city lights blur together. Finally, she walked to her study and opened the bottom drawer of her mahogany desk, the one she never opened. Inside was a small wooden box. She lifted the lid with shaking hands. Ultrasound photos, a tiny hospital bracelet reading "Baby girl Sinclair, 22 weeks." A 3-carat diamond engagement ring she'd never worn again. 7 years ago, Victoria had been different. She'd been ambitious, yes, but also hopeful. She'd been engaged to Marcus Ashford, a charming investment banker who promised her forever. They'd been planning a wedding when she got pregnant. Unexpected but welcomed. She'd been 28, building her company, preparing for motherhood. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. At 22 weeks, she went for a routine ultrasound and there was no heartbeat. The baby girl they'd already named Mercy was gone. The doctors used words like incompatible with life and chromosomal abnormality, but all Victoria heard was silence where her daughter's heartbeat should have been. Marcus had held her at the hospital. He'd said the right things, but something in him changed. He pulled away day by day, week by week. "I need time," he'd said. "This is too heavy. I can't handle this right now." 2 months after the funeral they'd held for a baby who never drew breath, Marcus left. He didn't just leave, he got engaged to someone else 6 months later. Someone less complicated. Someone who could give him the future Victoria no longer could. So she'd done what made sense. She'd built walls. She'd turned her pain into power, her vulnerability into control. If she kept everyone at arm's length, no one could hurt her again. If she demanded perfection, she'd never have to feel inadequate. If she never showed weakness, she'd never be abandoned. Sterling Dynamics became her fortress, and Daniel Reed had just put a crack in its foundation. The next morning, Daniel arrived at his Brooklyn apartment's kitchen table at 5 a.m., medical bills spread before him like accusations. The hospital had called the previous evening. Emma needed to start a new treatment protocol. More aggressive, more expensive, $50,000 up front. Even with his insurance, which Sterling Dynamics provided, the out-of-pocket costs were crushing him. He opened his laptop and started updating his resume. He'd probably be fired today anyway. "Daddy," Emma's small voice came from the hallway. She stood there in princess pajamas, her head covered by a bright purple beanie decorated with flowers. She'd picked it out herself when her hair started falling out. "You're up early. Come here, sweetheart." Daniel pulled her into his lap, careful not to jostle her central line port. "How are you feeling?" "Okay, I guess. My tummy hurts a little." She cuddled against his chest. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" "Just tired, baby girl." Emma looked up at him with Sarah's eyes, the same warm brown that he'd fallen in love with 13 years ago. "Mommy used to say you were the bravest person in the whole world." "Are you still brave, Daddy?" Daniel's throat tightened. "I'm trying, Emma. I promise I'm trying." "That's good, because I'm trying too. And if we're both trying together, we can beat anything, right?" He kissed the top of her beanie. "Right, sweetheart. We can beat anything together." At 9 a.m., Daniel walked into Sterling Dynamics expecting to clean out his desk. Instead, his desk phone rang at 9:15. Victoria's assistant. "Mr. Reed, Miss Sinclair would like to see you in her office." Here it comes, he thought. The termination. The end of Emma's health insurance. The complete collapse of what remained of his life. He took the elevator to the 42nd floor and walked to Victoria's office. She sat behind her desk, but something was different. She looked tired, almost human. "Sit down, Mr. Reed." He sat. "I've been reviewing your personnel file," Victoria said, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. "Your performance was exceptional until 18 months ago. Your efficiency ratings were consistently in the top 5% of the entire company." Daniel waited for the axe to fall. "I'm not firing you," Victoria continued. "In fact, I'm implementing a new flexible work policy effective immediately." Employees with family medical emergencies will have adjusted hours and the option to work remotely when necessary. Daniel stared at her. I don't understand. You were right. Yesterday. About respect. About being treated like a human being. Victoria's fingers drummed once on her desk, the first nervous gesture Daniel had ever seen from her. I built this company on fear because I thought it made us strong. I think I was wrong. Before Daniel could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Emma's school. His blood went cold. I'm sorry, I have to. Answer it, Victoria said. Daniel answered, his hand shaking. The school nurse's voice was panicked. Emma had collapsed during recess. An ambulance was on the way. They couldn't get her to wake up fully. Daniel was on his feet before conscious thought registered. I have to go. My daughter. I'll drive you. Victoria was already grabbing her keys, her Hermes bag. What? My car is faster than yours. And I know shortcuts. She was already moving toward the door. Come on. They ran to the parking garage. Victoria's Bentley Continental was parked in her private space, midnight blue and gleaming. She threw him the keys. You drive. Tell me where. Daniel's hands shook too badly. I can't. Fine. Get in. The Bentley roared to life. Victoria drove like she commanded boardrooms, with absolute authority and zero hesitation. She wove through Manhattan traffic, ignoring speed limits and angry horns. Talk to me, she said as she cut off a taxi. Tell me about Emma. Keep talking. Daniel realized she was trying to keep him from spiraling into panic. His voice was unsteady. She's 6. She loves painting. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She has this stuffed rabbit named Mr. Flops that she's had since she was 2. She's obsessed with the color purple. She makes me read her 3 books every night, even when she's exhausted from treatment. She's the bravest person I've ever known, and I can't lose her. I can't. She's all I have left. Victoria's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. You won't lose her. You don't know that. No, but I know what it's like to sit in a hospital waiting for news that might destroy you. And I know you don't have to do it alone. They reached the school as the ambulance was loading Emma onto a stretcher. Daniel jumped out before the car fully stopped. Emma. The paramedic held up a hand. Are you her dad? Yes. What's happening? She's conscious but disoriented. Blood pressure is low. We're taking her to Mount Sinai. I'm coming with you. Victoria appeared at his side. Go. I'll follow and meet you there. At the hospital, Daniel paced the emergency room while doctors examined Emma. Victoria sat in an orange plastic chair, looking completely out of place in her designer suit in this fluorescent-lit waiting room. After 45 agonizing minutes, Dr. Patel emerged. Daniel recognized Emma's oncologist immediately. Mr. Reed. Dr. Patel's face was grave. Emma is stable for now, but we need to talk about her treatment plan. They moved to a private consultation room. Victoria followed without being asked. Dr. Patel pulled up Emma's latest scans on tablet. The current chemotherapy protocol isn't working as well as we hoped. The leukemia cells are showing resistance. We need to move to a more aggressive treatment, a combination therapy that includes an experimental immunotherapy drug. Will it work? Daniel asked. It has a 73% success rate in cases like Emma's, but it's extremely expensive. The total cost is approximately $50,000, and unfortunately, most insurance companies classify it as experimental, which means they won't cover it, Daniel finished. His world was collapsing again. There are payment plans, financial assistance programs. How long do I have to decide? We should start treatment within the week. Daniel's mind raced through impossible calculations. He had maybe $15,000 in savings. He could try to sell his car, but he needed it to get Emma to treatments. He could take out loans, but who would lend to someone already drowning in medical debt? I'll cover it. Both Daniel and Dr. Patel turned to Victoria. I'll cover the entire cost, Victoria repeated, her voice steady. Whatever Emma needs. The experimental treatment, medications, hospital stays. All of it. Ms. Sinclair, you don't, Daniel started. I do. Victoria looked directly at him, and for the first time he saw past the Ice Queen facade to the person underneath. No child should suffer because of money. No parent should have to choose between their child's life and financial ruin. I can help, so I will. Dr. Patel looked between them, then nodded. I'll have the financial department draw up the paperwork and begin scheduling Emma's treatment immediately. After the doctor left, Daniel and Victoria sat in silence. Why are you doing this? Daniel finally asked. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. 7 years ago, I was pregnant, 22 weeks. I lost the baby. Chromosomal abnormality. The doctors said there was nothing anyone could have done. Daniel's anger evaporated, replaced by understanding. Her name was going to be Mercy. Victoria continued, her voice barely above a whisper. And the man I was going to marry left me 2 months after the funeral. He said I was too broken, too intense, that he needed someone who could give him a future without so much pain. I'm sorry. I built walls after that. I turned myself into someone no one could hurt again. But those walls also kept out everything good, everything human. She finally looked at him. You reminded me what it feels like to care about something more than control. So I'm helping Emma because I can. And because maybe helping her helps me too. Over the following weeks, something extraordinary happened. Victoria didn't just pay for Emma's treatment. She showed up. She visited the hospital, bringing art supplies and books. She sat with Daniel during the long chemotherapy sessions, the two of them working side by side on their laptops in uncomfortable chairs. Emma, resilient and trusting in the way only children can be, adopted Victoria immediately. Miss Victoria, do you want to see my painting? Became a regular refrain. Victoria, who'd forgotten how to be gentle, relearned it in that sterile hospital room. One evening, as Emma slept between treatment doses, Daniel and Victoria sat in the hallway, sharing terrible vending machine coffee. My wife Sarah used to say that the universe puts people in our lives exactly when we need them, Daniel said quietly. I didn't believe her after she died. I thought the universe was just random and cruel. And now I think maybe she was right. He turned to look at Victoria. You didn't have to do any of this. But you did. And I don't think it's random. I think maybe we both needed this. Victoria's carefully constructed walls, built over 7 years of grief and fear, finally crumbled completely. I haven't cried since the day Marcus left, she whispered. I trained myself not to feel anything. But Emma, watching her fight so hard, she's teaching me how to be human again. She's teaching both of us, Daniel said. Their hands found each other in the space between the plastic chairs. Back at Sterling Dynamics, employees noticed the change. Victoria still ran the company with precision, but the fear was gone. She implemented flexible work policies, expanded healthcare coverage to include experimental treatments, and created an emergency fund for employees facing medical crises. At a board meeting 6 weeks after Emma started treatment, one of the directors questioned the new policy's impact on profit margins. Victoria leaned forward, her voice calm but absolutely firm. I built this company on control because I was afraid to be vulnerable. I thought power meant never showing weakness. I was wrong. Our employees are human beings with families and struggles and lives outside these walls. If we can't treat them with compassion, then what's the point of success? The director started to argue. Victoria cut him off. My decision is final. If you can't support a culture of respect and humanity, there are other companies that might suit you better. The room was silent. Then, one by one, the other board members nodded in agreement. 8 weeks into treatment, Emma's test results came back. Dr. Patel smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time since they'd met him. Remission, he said. Complete remission. The experimental treatment worked exactly as we hoped. Daniel collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down his face. Victoria gripped Emma's small hand, her own eyes suspiciously bright. Emma, exhausted but triumphant, looked at both of them. See, Daddy? I told you we could beat anything if we tried together. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon, Daniel and Emma stood at the door of Victoria's penthouse. Emma bounced on her toes, her hair growing back in soft brown waves. Is this where Miss Victoria lives? It's so high up. Victoria opened the door, wearing jeans and a sweater, something her employees would have paid money to witness. Hey, Emma, I thought we could paint today. I set up an art station on the balcony. Emma squealed and ran inside. Daniel caught Victoria's hand. Are you sure about this? Having us invade your space. I've never been more sure of anything. Victoria pulled him close. This penthouse used to be a fortress, cold and empty and lonely. But you and Emma, you filled it with warmth, with life, with everything I thought I'd lost forever. He kissed her, tender and slow. I love you, Victoria Sinclair. I love your strength and your vulnerability. I love how you read to Emma with silly voices. I love how you've transformed yourself and your company. I love all of you. I love you too, she whispered. Both of you. You've given me a family I never thought I'd have. You've given me a second chance at life. From the balcony, Emma called out, "Are you guys coming? I want to paint a portrait of all of us together." 6 months after that, Victoria stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the positive pregnancy test in her shaking hands. She'd never thought this would happen again, never dared to hope. Daniel appeared in the doorway. "Victoria? Are you?" He saw the test. "Oh my God, I'm pregnant." Her voice broke. "Daniel, I'm pregnant. After everything, after losing Grace, after thinking I could never." He wrapped her in his arms as she finally, completely let herself cry. Happy tears this time. Healing tears. Emma, now 8 and cancer-free, shrieked with joy when they told her she was going to be a big sister. "Can we name her Mercy?" she asked. "After your first baby? So she's also part of our family." Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "Mercy Reed Sinclair. How does that sound?" "Perfect," Emma declared. They married in a quiet ceremony in the hospital's rooftop garden, the same place where Victoria and Daniel had first admitted their feelings. Dr. Patel attended, along with Victoria's now loyal executive team and Daniel's extended family. As Victoria stood at those same floor-to-ceiling windows in her penthouse months later, she marveled at the transformation. Emma's artwork covered the refrigerator. Daniel's books lined the shelves. Laughter echoed through rooms that once knew only silence. Her hand rested on her growing belly. In 2 months, Mercy would arrive. Sterling Dynamics was thriving with its new culture of compassion. Emma was healthy and vibrant. Daniel stood beside her every day, patient and loving and real. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "About how I used to think strength meant control, that power meant never showing weakness, that those walls kept me safe." She leaned back against him. "But real strength is letting people in. Real power is using what you have to help others. And the only thing walls did was keep me alone." Emma ran in, dragging them toward the kitchen. "Come on. I made cookies and they're getting cold." As they followed their daughter into the warm, lived-in heart of what was once a cold fortress, Victoria realized that her empire wasn't measured in billions anymore. It was measured in Emma's laughter, in Daniel's steady presence, in the baby growing inside her. She'd spent 7 years building walls to protect a broken heart. It took one exhausted analyst with a dying daughter to show her that the bravest thing she could ever do was tear those walls down and let love heal what pain had broken. And now, standing in her home, no longer a penthouse, but a home, surrounded by the family she never thought she'd have, Victoria Sinclair understood what Sarah had meant when she told Daniel the universe puts people in our lives exactly when we need them. Sometimes the coldest hearts hide the deepest wounds. And sometimes the greatest act of courage is allowing someone to thaw them. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness. What act of compassion changed your life? We'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to like this video if you believe in second chances and the transformative power of love.